So, here we are again on another go around of topics. How we doing today? I don't know if you could tell, but it's another illustrious day in the world, and like I always say, any day above ground is a good day. So let's just jump into today's topic. Something that came across my mind not too long ago, and I wanted to share it with you guys while it was still fresh. We talk in this world about, the most important things that we have in life. Most times people say like it's family. A lot of people talk about, their careers, this and that. And then you jump into, a little bit of outward stuff like relationship kind of stuff maybe. And you start to wonder, well, what are the most important qualities of a relationship? Like honesty, of course, communication, loyalty. Those are all the important things. You never want to lose those. So that's, those are the key, building blocks of a relationship. But one of the things that I think is kind of, I don't want to say it's lost because it's not. It's very integral. But I think one thing that doesn't really get the huge amount of attention is time. And here's the concept about time: you don't get it back. And another thing about time is you must use it as wisely as possible. Now, the thing with time when it comes to relationships, especially, as, we're adults and everything, is as adults, we most of the time have adult responsibilities, which, that's just part of being an adult and being a grown-up in this world. But at the same time, you have to spend time taking care of your adult responsibilities, which sometimes aren't always synonymous with your relationship. A lot of us, if we're in a relationship, we usually have jobs that are separate from our partner. A lot of times, not all the time. There's a lot of people out there that work with their significant other, and that's fine, if you can make it work. Some people don't like to where they sleep or, that kind of thing, but it works for some people. I mean, I've done it, in the past. It worked out okay until it didn't. But, but at the same time, most of the time, it's not like that as far as working with your partner. So, we all have, like I said, responsibilities, and what we try to do is manage that time that we spend away. We have to take care of our jobs and whatnot, or careers, but when we're off work, when we're on our off time, we want to spend that time with our significant others. Sometimes there's not a lot of time in the world. And, there's only 24 hours in a day. And that'll be a recurring thing. But I'll bring it back to a story that involves myself. And it was a long time ago. And I was actually dealing with this girl, and we were pretty dang close to a relationship. And we had been talking for a while and getting to know each other. We really liked each other. I liked her, and that was well documented. I don't hide that, about my feelings when I'm talking to somebody. And she actually made it well known that, she wanted to, that she really liked me. And we were pretty close to, I'm thinking maybe within like a week of, this certain point that we were at, we would have been like full-blown relationship. And we just hadn't crossed that line yet. But a situation came up to where we were talking one night, and I thought the night was going pretty good. Just in general, not for any specific reasons, people, but it's okay to have a good time just enjoying somebody's company. But we were having a good conversation all through the night, which we usually always did. And that was why, we got along so well, which is why I thought, we were headed towards a path of, relationship, level, which would have been awesome in my mind at the time. And, spoiler alert. And what happened was we started talking about the fact that as time had gone by, we hadn't been spending as much time together in those recent, days, leading up to this, time, this particular moment that we were hanging out. And the reason being is because I was working 2 jobs at the time. I had my, main job, and I was taking on a part-time job, which I already had before I even met her. Coincidentally, it was through the second job that I met her, ad hoc. But what happened was, I continued on this path of, a second job, just moonlighting type of stuff. And me, myself, like, by definition, like I'm a hustler. If there's money out there to be made, if I can go get it, I will. If they're handing out money, I'm going to be there. If they're handing out ways to make the money legally, I'm going to be there. So that's what I was doing. It's not like I had bad credit, or trying to pay my way out of a debt or anything. I was just, extra cash. Who doesn't want extra money in this world? Right? So that's just what I was doing at the time. I was single. I had a lot of free time. I'm going to occupy my time with something productive, which is what I was doing. And it turns out, through, some kind of, mystic way how I ended up meeting her. So anyhow, which was fine because, had that not happened, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to get along the way that we did, get to know each other. It was great. Everything was going along just fine. I found myself really liking her and vice versa. It was, luckily for me, she was upfront, or not upfront, but she was direct and letting me know how she felt about me, because I'm not the kind of guy that really gets a good read on that unless, you're direct with me, because I don't want to assume anything. Not a lot of women will just tell you like, hey, I like you. So that was kind of like refreshing that, we both had that, in the air about each other, and we were trying to build upon that, which we actually were. And then this conversation started happening about, it seemed like it was almost a personal attack to a degree. Like, I wasn't spending as much time with her. And I told her, I was like, well, no, it's like, I understand. Yes, I'm working 2 jobs. I don't have a lot of free time, but all the free time that I have, I'm spending with you, as much as I possibly can. And I'm not going to change that. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, I like spending time with you. But when my time is just a little bit limited, it's not that, that's how I prefer it. If I could spend more time with you, I definitely would, but I don't want to lose out on, the opportunity that I had going on at the moment, which, like I said, was the opportunity that I was involved in before I even met her, which was how I met her. So what ended up being the end of that conversation was, I ended up asking her, like, okay, well, at the end of the day, do you want a guy that, gets up, goes out into the world, busts his butt, just to try to get all the little extras that are out there in the world because, he wants to be a provider, and that's my thing. Like, since I've been a kid, one of the, things that I learned was I come from, my upbringing was about males being providers. And that's all that I saw. I didn't grow up knowing any guys, between my stepdad, my real dad, any of the guys in my neighborhood, all the older dads in the neighborhood, they all worked. They were all the primary, at least, breadwinners, if not sole, breadwinners of the family. And that's just, the way that I was, ingrained in my head, and I'm gonna stay that way. I'm like this now at this age, so why would I change that? And I was like that then, I'm like that now. So and I just thought that, me personally anyway, now you folks can really dive in and, let's dialogue this. I always thought growing up, as I got into a little bit more of a mode of, a little bit of perception of what maybe, some of the key things that women look for in a man. And I always thought, anyway, my general impression was that women look for a man who's capable of being a provider. Whether he already brings that to the table or he's working towards that. However, being a provider means that you have to go out in the world to do the providing. It's very rare that you could just sit at home and be the quote unquote man of the house. Yeah, you're going to be the man of the house because you're always in the house. But that doesn't mean that, you can call this stereotypical jock, sexist mentality. I'm not a sexist. Disclaimer, I'm not a sexist. However, I just always felt that it's part of a man's DNA to be able to go out and be that provider. Not saying a woman can't go out there and do it, because a lot of you women go out there and do that. However, and don't get me wrong, I salute that, to the fullest. I always have, your back for that, because it's so great. A lot of women have no choice but to do it. A lot of women choose to do it because that's just the way they were raised as well, which is awesome. So I'm going to salute and champion anybody who's getting up and going out into the world and getting theirs. That's just what we're supposed to be doing, and, not looking, for handouts. And, I told this girl that I was talking to that, it'd be kind of hard for me to, downscale, because I'm so used to, going out in the world and earning, my keep. And, if I was to just go into either one of those jobs that I had, both or either, and say, you know what, forget y'all, man, I'm done with this. I don't need y'all. I want to spend more time with my girl. We weren't even full blown together yet, but, I want to spend more time with her because, we're not spending as much time lately because I'm doing, these two jobs kind of thing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is all running through my head while we're having this conversation. And I'm just like, you know what? Why would I change who I was when I met her? Because, you always get into that mode of, people always say, if you do what you did when you first got with somebody, you won't have any problems because you're not changing yourself. You stay consistent, and can't nobody tell you that you changed. Well, I had these two jobs when I first met her, so this was clearly on the table this whole time that we've been talking, and then it became a problem. So I was like, well, what is the problem? I'm spending as much free time, of the free time that I do have, I'm spending the lion's share of it with you. And don't get me wrong, I need to get my sleep, and all that stuff, but I'm doing all this because I want to, because that's how much I like you and how much I really want us to, try to work, because, we're getting that close to a relationship. And once we get to that level, it's, the gloves are off. I'm going to be in that thing. So I'm not frivolous with relationships. We cross that line. Now, if we're like a day away and we ain't crossed that line, I can forget about you by the next day. There's no problem. But once we cross that line, we're not backing out of that thing, for, the foreseeable future. Like I said, I'm not frivolous. As far as I'm concerned, that's an investment. You don't invest in something just to pull, your investment right back out. So for me, I'm working on, building that, and then I get hit with that. So I had to, ask the question, coming back to it. I was like, do you want a guy who goes out there and, gets all the scoops that are out there to be scooped up? Or do you want a guy who doesn't, go out there, who has all this free time because he's not working, because he's not going out there earning his keep? But like you said, you want that free time to be spending. But this guy, wouldn't be a provider, for you. He wouldn't, and not to say that that's what women need. I don't know what women need. I'm just assuming that that's the kind of quality that they look for in a man, the kind of quality that I know I have in myself, that if it's not appreciated by a woman, I'm gone. Like, the road is right there and I'm going to hit it. But I never thought in a million years that if I asked a woman that, number one, I never thought I would ask a woman that question. But when I asked her that question, she told me that she would prefer to be with the guy that worked less or even didn't have a job because he would have the free time to spend, with her. She basically chose option B as opposed to the working man. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, what's wrong with her? Like, in my mind, I couldn't grasp it in that moment. You're in that moment, you're trying to, analyze everything that's going on. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I cannot believe I just heard that, and I just told her, I was like, well, I could downscale, my part-time job or just give it up altogether. But, this is like extra income that, I've just been little by little trying to stack, pay an extra bill, here and there. It's extra gas money, have a steak dinner on the weekend type of money. But at the same time, I could be using it to help us like build towards something, like later on. Like here I am, we're not even in a relationship, and I'm thinking about helping us, like together, when literally I could have just been thinking of myself, which I was at the in the onset of it because I didn't know her at the time. So, I like I said, I just didn't get it. And that was literally like the beginning of the end for us. Like I didn't really want to deal with her in a grand scheme anymore. I tried to make it work, and it just seemed like the salt was already poured on the wound, and you can't really fix that. So my question to y'all is, what really is more important to a relationship? Is it about working to build something that you have to get up in the real world and go to work, but that a lot of times requires you to spend time away from your partner? Is that something that you're willing to give up? Here's a term that, is used a lot of times in a relationship: sacrifice. Or if you want to get into a little bit more technical terms, compromise. Can you compromise the fact that you're going to lose out on a little bit of time? Here we go again. Time that you don't get back, for your partner to go to work, let them maintain the level of taking care of their responsibilities that they were doing even before you got together. And you don't want to detract from that, because relationships should be about building, not tearing down. So if it's going to be a problem that your partner works a lot, if you already know this ahead of time, like, is that a deal breaker? Because if you know it ahead of time and then you choose to let this relationship, evolve, is it really fair to hold that over somebody's head the longer you get into that relationship? Because that's who they were, and like what I talk about is, if you can accept somebody for literally who they are when you first get with them, is it fair to ask them to change that about themselves as the relationship goes on? Honestly, is that fair? I don't know. I'm not going to, say it is fair or it's unfair. But, for me in that situation, I just felt like, I'm not going to say it was fair or unfair, but I thought that it was kind of odd that it became a problem, afterwards, because we had been going through this. So at least, she brought it up as a concern, and I respected that. And I wanted to, help understand and, hopefully try to come to a compromise about it. But I just felt like the compromise would have been a complete overhaul of myself, because the only way I could have made the compromise to spend the kind of time that she wanted to spend would have been to give up, that second job. Now, I possibly would have been willing to do it, but, and not to say this is a good way of thinking, I'm not gonna say it's a bad way of thinking, but sometimes, you have to look out for the big picture. And part of the big picture was, what if I give it up and it doesn't work out between us? Then I would have, not to say that like that job was like super important or anything, But sometimes you give up so much for somebody and then it doesn't work out. And then it's like, well, you gave that up. You asked somebody to change and then you left them on the side of the road with nothing. Now, I don't want to say nothing. I mean, I wouldn't have been left with nothing, but it comes down to, you ask somebody to change and then you flip the script on them. And that definitely is not fair. My opinion is that is not fair. So, when it really comes down to is, why is there no like middle ground? Like, if somebody, like, let's say a guy gets with a lady and she happens to be like a lawyer, and this guy, he already works himself like 40, 50 hours a week. Well, she's a lawyer. She's probably going to be putting in like minimum like 60-hour work weeks. They're not going to be spending probably too much time together. And maybe he's the guy that, likes spending time with his girl, his woman, but she probably can only give him like maybe an hour or two of her undivided attention per day. Like, that's just how it is sometimes. But if you really like somebody, are you willing to have that compromise? A lot of times people, I think, they sacrifice something for themselves, to help benefit the relationship without the expectation that their partner is going to do the same for them. And that's okay. But I always thought, relationships should be like 50-50, because let's go back to my situation. Let's say I had gave up like that second job and I would have been spending more time with her. Well, personally, now I would have made the sacrifice, for the extra income that I was bringing in. I would have made that sacrifice to spend that extra time with her. But there's a little bit part of me that may have had an expectation myself of how that time could or should have been being spent, because here I am, I know what I could be doing with this time that I had before spending at work. Now I'm spending with this person. That time needs to equate what I was giving up, and that's usually what it comes down to. I'm not going to say I was giving up something, even though I just said giving up. Not to say like giving up, but what I was removing myself from, whatever situation I'm removing myself from, has to be an upgrade. Now, just sitting on a park bench alone for that same set amount of hours, that could be the difference in the world. But I don't want to be spending that same time that I remove myself from just to be in something toxic or non-developing, because it can happen. And you have to go into these situations knowing that if you're going to be, I'm not saying giving up, but if you're going to be removing yourself from a situation as a compromise, then it has to at least equate or be an upgrade from what you're removing yourself from. And it seemed like I wasn't really given any assurances about that. Maybe I didn't need to be given any, so that's fine. But it just seemed like I was being told to give up the second job, end of story. And that was it. It was almost like it was a deal breaker kind of thing. And I'm like, well, how am I being given a deal breaker about something that was already known ahead of time? So I just didn't get that. But I don't know. What do y'all think? I mean, is it cool to, expect somebody to, as far as, you want to spend time with somebody, are you willing to give up, the amount of time that you spend? Because like I said, we don't get it back. However, the time that we do have with each other, we have to be able to make the most of it. But are we going to be able, in our minds and in our hearts, be able to make a sacrifice about, okay, I'm not spending this amount of time with my partner today. I probably won't see my partner too much tomorrow for the next few days. So maybe, coming up like on Thursday and Friday, we're going to have, this set amount of hours like to spend. That's okay. But after that, we're not going to have that much time to spend for the next, 4 or 5 days kind of thing. So I think the best couples out there really find ways to make that work. But is there a such thing as your partner working too much? And when I say that, as far as your partner having to work so much because that's what it takes to be the provider. It could be, the guy or the girl, it doesn't matter. But if your partner has to work a lot of hours, or already was working a lot of hours before you met them, and you start liking them, you start hanging out with them little by little, and this person really has to go out there and work those hours to be able to be the kind of provider for their responsibilities in life. And they can't change that because that's what it takes. Are we all willing to make that sacrifice, or are we just going to say, you know what, that's a problem. I don't want to deal with somebody who's working too much because I won't see them, or I won't be able to, spend any time with them. And it's like, well, yeah, you're not going to spend any time with them, but you guys aren't going to be able to grow upon with one another because nobody's working. It takes work to survive in this world. I don't know what world a lot of people live in, maybe the silver spooners of the world, but where I come from, you got to work, so, and that's just how it is. But some people got to work a lot to get what they need to take care of themselves. Some people don't have to work that much, but can we make that sacrifice for the people that do? Or even the people that don't work that much, even that might be too much time for somebody else to want to deal with. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, we all got to go out there and do it. But is there a such thing as too much? Like, what's your limit as far as how much you can take, your partner being away from you because they're out doing what they need to, not what they want to do, what they need to do, or what they were doing before you got together with them. So let me know. Like I said, let's talk about this, because like I said, I want to know. It's good, food for thought. Maybe some of you guys maybe are in this situation currently and maybe need a release valve as far as talking about it. But and I'm here for that. Like I said, I like talking about all kinds of topics, but this one, came to my head from a prior experience. So, it's out there, but all I'll say is, thank goodness that, that relationship didn't, or that potential relationship didn't go forward for me, because at least I saw what I could have potentially been dealing with as far as, having to, be given choices that you don't want to make per se, and, not being given any, options as far as what could be the benefits of it. Because in life, we all want to benefit from the situations that we're in, not in a selfish way, but if we're going to be dealing with somebody like in a relationship, you want the person that you're with to benefit from you, and vice versa. I want the person I'm with to help me be better as a person. I want the person I'm with to say, every day I want that person to be better, if that's what we're going to, be doing together. So I don't think, in that situation, or once I was in that conversation and I saw that, my general perception was that this wasn't going to be the kind of person that would be that way for me. So, all's well that ends well. Good riddance, another one bites the dust, however you want to call it. But I don't know, whatever y'all think, let me know. There's a like button, there's a share button, there's a subscribe button. It's all up there for you. But, thanks for listening. I like to hear everybody's opinions about everything. And as always, peace.